They're here.
What is up? How's everyone doing tonight? Excited to be here because we're talking about one of the greatest movies in the history of cinema. I said that last week, but this time I mean it. We're talking about Poltergeist from 1982. Yeah, buddy. All right, man. We got the full crew in the house tonight.
Let's go.
Let's do it, man. This one is Fable's pick. Last week we did Stu's pick, and in a month we're doing Link's pick. But I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit more about that in just a little bit here. But let's just dive into this, man. 1982, Poltergeist. I want to talk about the movie, obviously, a lot tonight. We're going to be reviewing the film, and then it's a 40-year-old debate at this point of who directed Poltergeist. It says it's a film by Tobe Hooper. Obviously, it was produced by Steven Spielberg. It was written, co-written by Steven Spielberg, and it just feels like a Steven Spielberg film through and through to me. So that's definitely something I want to get into. But let's just dive in. We've got a lot to do in this episode. I just want to get into your overall thoughts. Fable, clearly you're a fan of this movie. I assume we're all fans and familiar with this movie. But I want to know your history with the movie. When was the last time you watched it? And what was your experience like watching it this time for the rewatch?
This movie is one of those staple movies, right? Like it was the kind of thing that was always on a syndicated channel or something like that. It was always a weekend movie. It was always on TV. It was one of those kind of movies. So I don't remember when was the first time I watched it, really, to be honest with you. It's kind of like a blur, right? Like I've seen it so many times as a kid that I can't even remember the first time I saw it. But I haven't seen it in a long time. It's been a little while. It really has. And upon watching it this time, it kind of hit me a little different than before. You know, when I was a kid, I was really shook of this movie. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like the scary parts or the parts that are meant to be scary in this movie, as a child, I was terrified of. Like
Same.
Not quite the same this time around, but at the same time, it is sort of still scary, but in a parental child sort of way. Me having 3 kids and these kids going through what they went through in this whatever paranormal activity, it's really harrowing, and I felt it a little differently this time around. Still great.
Hell yeah, man. That was probably my biggest takeaway from the film. When I was a kid, this was a movie about Carol Ann and Robbie and, you know, her getting lost and about the kids. Now it's a movie about these parents losing their kids, and it's like, it's really awesome how it hits just as hard both ways. Maybe even more hard this way because it hits you more in like the feels. You know what I mean? There was a moment or two where I wanted to tear up watching it this time around. I don't think I had that experience as a kid, but I will say, like, I still find it a little bit scary. Like it's scarier than a lot of the movies that we watch. And for being like a family friendly Spielberg type of thing, that's kind of interesting. But what about you, Link? What's your history with the film and how was the rewatch for you, brother?
I actually hadn't seen this in quite a while, probably like 20 years. I saw this like maybe when I was like 14, and I haven't seen it since. So it's not like it's been a staple for me, but I was familiar with it. But this rewatch, it was solid. I gotta agree. This felt like a Spielberg film through and through. Like it just like the opening gave me like Jaws vibes all the way. Like now admittedly I'm not familiar with Tobe Hooper outside of the Texas Chainsaw, so I don't know if anything else he's done, so I can't really say that's not his style, but this definitely felt like a Spielberg film this time around. I don't think at 14 I was like really analyzing or trying to
looking out for that.
Yeah, I mean that was one of that's half of, or that's a huge percentage of why I enjoyed this rewatch so much. Was now like I am more familiar with Tobe Hooper, and of course we're all familiar with Spielberg. So to be able to like kind of study in that way, it added a whole nother layer of interest to the movie that was never there before. So that was fun this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I probably heard this, but when like the credits were rolling and I saw like Poltergeist directed by Tobe Hooper or whatever, or I think there's like I watched it on a website. So the website lists the director, and I saw Tobe Hooper. I was like, Tobe Hooper directed this? Yeah, I was kind of shocked. I probably heard it before, but it didn't register. But this time around, it did. So it definitely gave me a different outlook going into this movie. But I think this is a solid movie. I think it holds up well. Just one thing I don't care too much for, not to say I don't care too much for, but I don't really peep sometimes, is the music. Fucking music was great in this movie.
Soundtrack
performances, just even some of like the effects, like towards the end, like not to get too far into it, but like the ghost that's like covering over the door towards the end, preventing the mom from getting in the room, holds up so well for 1982. This still looks good. But I had a good time with this one. It was good.
And that's this is a lot of Industrial Light and Magic's
right
first foray
coming out party
effects.
Yeah,
because they're doing Star Wars and this is kind of a departure from that, miniatures and puppets and stuff. I mean, there's still puppets in this movie, but this is them trying something a little different and trying to see what they could achieve in that.
And they killed it.
That arena, yeah.
Like that scene towards the end where like the skull and thing is like it's on its like hands type thing crawling towards the wife is such a great shot. Like there were so many shots. I'm like, this is 82,
right? I know.
Like, nah, they did their thing. Industrial.
For me, in a lot of ways, watching this movie, it feels like the birth of this style, sort of like
absolutely
sleek. I can't describe it, but you guys know what I'm trying to say.
When the stairs coming down the staircase, like it felt so in sync and like a oneness with the like that Jurassic Park of like it feels part of the like we don't feel like this is special effects at all. Like this is part of the experience. Like it was crazy.
I don't know too much about the production, but it feels like they have a lot of like maybe steady cam or cams on rails and things like that. Like they're using new forms of moving the camera.
That's one part that feels, first of all, it's what makes it feel more Spielbergian to me than Hooper, but it also makes it feel really cinematic, and it's just in this house. That was one thing I started really like paying attention to on the second watch this week. Is like, dude, this is like taking place in one room. There's all these long conversations, but the way that the camera's moving and the way that the characters are moving within the frame and like keep on readjusting themselves to set up different like cool compositions. It's like, I know we're going to get into it further, but as I'm watching, I'm like, not only did Spielberg do this, but he's flexing so hard, trying to like make sure everyone knows that he did it. Like they're gonna be like they're gonna walk away and be like, there's no way Tobe Hooper did this movie because look at these scenes.
No, there's so many times like you're watching and you're like, all right, this is a scene I want to talk about, and then that kind of gets muddied into the next scene that follows it, and it's just like before you know it, you got 10, 15 scenes on your hands, and you're like you don't know where to start.
Well, that's what my fiance, she's watching it with me last night, and she's less interested. I made her watch this like in 2016 when the remake came out. She doesn't really care, you know what I mean? Right. So she looks away for just 1 second, and then the next second, Carol Ann's getting sucked into the closet, Robbie's in a tree, and she's like, what the hell happened? So it's like, this movie, like the pace of it is fantastic.
Absolutely.
But Stu, I know you had mentioned last week that this wasn't necessarily a movie that you grew up that much with either, but what was your experience with it as a child and this week?
Man, so like brief memories of it, they're here and all that as a kid, but not all of the visceral parts. And like all you guys said before, it echoes different from a child and as a parent. And watching this, half of this in like a hospital room with my kid who was struggling to breathe, it hits different. Like, and I think it's an indictment, low key, not to get like too deep off the bat with it, but it's an indictment of the American dream at the bottom of it. Like the subdivision and like this family and what they have built and what they built it on. Like there's so many levels to it, and like you could really like spend all day rolling around in that, but then you get hit with like the shots and just like the little bits of cinematography. Like you said, there's so many ways you could spin this, and it's a classic. So I don't know, man. Like hats off to Fable, a great pick. Revisiting it like you guys said, as an adult, like as a dad, as a parent, is in a completely different experience as a kid. And I'm glad I did that, even though it was like spread out in a couple nights, like just the experience of like redigesting this and like just experiencing it again. Like so many times I was just like, it was me like with my little phone or like in the headphones, just like, wow, this shit is crazy. Like the shit when they were coming down the steps,
the staircase,
just like, beautiful, and you feel like homeboy who's there, like you feel enraptured with this experience. And I love, that's always what I've loved about Spielberg, and that's why I feel like his hand is so heavy in it, is like the delight and the wonder he takes in that, the unknown, and like the revelry, no matter like as Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which this was like, if I'm right, this was originally meant to be a sequel to, is that right? Like
that's what I heard.
Sense? Like, and you can see bits of that, but like, just like I love that the delight and the mystery that he takes and what we don't know in this world, and like how he always tries to bring that to the forefront in his pictures.
That's awesome. Chill Out saying he never saw this pick before. He said he was always scared of it before. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. That's awesome, brother. But yeah, well said, Stu, for sure, dude. Before we go any further, I do want to mention this. At the end of this show, I'm going to be making the official announcement for Zombie Fest 2024. I'm like so jacked about this. I've spent way too much time thinking about zombies in the past 2 weeks, trying to pick out the perfect lineup for us. But I've told you guys a bunch of times, but for listeners, this is my original intent for this show, or like one thing I want to do is like every other month dive into a subgenre like home invasion or ghost stories or zombies or whatever, and really pick out 4 movies that kind of celebrate the subgenre that we can all go through. So I'm so stoked to be kicking off 2024 in January with Zombie Fest. And I'll just say we're beginning with Night of the Living Dead. And
dude, so many classics on the screen right here.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
We're not going to be doing them all, but we will be mentioning. The way I plan to set up the month is that pretty much every zombie movie that's ever worth mentioning will at least be touched on at some point throughout that month.
Oh yeah, bro.
But hell yeah, man. Let's go. Let's dive in a little bit deeper. So I'm kind of debating on how to do this because I've compiled, like I've got pictures, I've got photographic evidence, I've got video evidence, I've got quotes, I've got a lot of information that I could shoot at you guys. But I think the way I want to start it off is just send it to you, Fable, after just watching it. I assume you didn't do a bunch of research and shit like I did, but just from watching the movie, what is your feel? And you have watched, Lake, you have too. You're a little bit more familiar with Hooper than you probably think you are, because you did watch Life Force, which is the movie that he did right after this, 2 years after this, and it actually has a bigger budget than Poltergeist, shockingly enough. And I watched like a half hour of that earlier, and Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, just to like, all right, I want to get a feel of these two guys to see where they're at. But Fable, what is your thoughts on this? Like, who do you think is the bigger creative force behind Poltergeist?
I mean, I've always thought and I've always felt this was a Steven Spielberg movie. I didn't get turned on to the Tobe Hooper part about it until somebody said Steven Spielberg didn't direct that movie. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, no, he didn't direct that movie. It was Tobe Hooper. It's like, wait, the guy who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre? No way. I don't even believe that. I don't know. I've always felt this was Steven Spielberg. This has all his trademarks. All his hallmarks are in here. Steven Spielberg, in my opinion, is a latent horror movie director. Right? Like this, I believe that he loves to do horror, and there's bits of horror in all of his movies. There's bits of chilling, terror, suspense, all of that in all of his films.
Well said.
And I think at some point he realized that he wanted the money. Right? Like, you know what I mean? He knew that rated R wasn't going to work. That's why the whole PG-13 came about, because he wanted to push the envelope but not get an R. It was so, you know what I mean? It was so in him not to get that R, because he you know, I mean, he wanted to get the money, like I said. So I think Tobe Hooper was involved, but I think he was a second unit director or something along those lines.
Yep, that's what I think too.
Yeah, I think this is totally Steven Spielberg's baby. If he's the producer and he's the writer, this is his vision completely.
Yeah, you know? I think Hooper was the director until like the days that Spielberg was on set.
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
He was, because it sounded like he was super enthusiastic and vocal and like taking the lead in spots where Hooper didn't know like really where to go. And And I can see that just in his natural personality. You know what I mean? Just who he is. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that he ultimately put Tobe's name on it because Tobe did have an edge to him for directing Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So in order to market this movie in a little bit of a better, you know what I mean, to hook people, is like, from the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You gotta be like, holy shit. Produced by Steven Spielberg. I mean, you already want to watch this thing in 1982
Right.
if you heard those names. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. The one thing that's interesting that weighs heavily on the side of that Steven Spielberg did direct this is that he was under contract with, I think, Universal, where he was doing E.T., and he could only direct one movie at a time. He legally was not allowed to direct this movie. So that's one of the reasons why, like, it might be a reason why he would have Tobe Hooper come in and shadow direct it a little bit. But this is just to touch on something one of you was just saying. Here's a quote. This is
the famous one.
Yeah, this is what Steven Spielberg said in 1982, the Los Angeles Times. Tobe isn't a take charge sort of guy. If a question was asked and an answer wasn't immediately forthcoming, I'd jump in and say what we could do. Tobe would nod his head in agreement, and that became the process of collaboration. That is a damning statement right there. And this statement and some other ones actually led whoever the board is that would give a fuck into doing an investigation into who directed the film, because it would have been some kind of legal situation. They ruled that Tobe Hooper directed it, but that doesn't mean shit to me. No. There's all these other quotes.
I love how he's distanced himself like more and more as with each passing year from that statement. Like, you know, he's been more and more hands off. It's been so telling. But yeah.
Here's the other one I'll just throw out there now while I have this up. This is a big one too. The producer, Frank Marshall, I'll paraphrase. Basically what he's saying is that Steven Spielberg did all of the, oh God, no, I've lost the word for it. What is it called? The storyboards. He did the storyboards for the film, which is a huge deal. Like storyboards, if anybody in the audience isn't familiar with what that is, it's basically the comic book version of a movie. Not all movies are made like that, but if Steven Spielberg,
that's still how Ridley Scott does all his movies like that. Still,
that's how you get the look of a movie. The camera's going to be here. This actor is going to be here. You know what I mean? We're going to move these pieces here. Now, Tobe Hooper has said that he did half of the storyboards, for what that's worth. And I don't want to say like Tobe Hooper isn't capable of making good shots, because I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the most visually striking horror movies ever made. But I also think his style doesn't fit this style. It doesn't look like this. But Steph, what is your take on it? I'm kind of throwing you on the spot. What is your feel that you get from it? Just as far as who directed this thing, is this something that you had heard about before watching it this week and were thinking of it all, or is this something that you're just kind of hearing about now?
I probably have heard about it, but once again, it probably didn't register until this past week. But looking at the movie, I gotta say, like I said earlier, like the opening gives me straight Jaws vibes. Like it's a quaint little town. Everybody seems to know everybody. Everyone's having a good time, and then like even with Jaws, the suspense slowly builds up, until it's like a breaking point. But like they said, that quote, it said Steven Spielberg was on set every day except for 3 days.
Yeah.
And those 3 days, he's the producer and writer.
Those 3 days he was in Hawaii with George Lucas. That got me thinking, who directed Return of the Jedi? Stu, your mic's muted.
I'm sorry. How many Star Wars Easter eggs are in this thing?
I know.
So many.
Well, just think about that. Who directed Return of the Jedi? I don't know. I don't know his name. I know, like I should know his name. I've known it at times, but I don't know it right now. But we all just credit George Lucas.
Yeah,
you're
right.
The main creative force behind it. Like they say a lot of days during shooting of Return of the Jedi, he was back with the special effects department working with them, and he wasn't even with the actors, but he's the main creative driving force behind it. And clearly him and Spielberg are buddies, and they could be like, hey, here's a way that you can get around that, so that's just a little bit more evidence to it. But I don't know if I was cutting you off, Link, if you had more to go on there.
Oh no, I gotta agree. This feels like a Spielberg movie. And with the quotes and how hands-on he was, I gotta say I think for like it was like a loophole for legal reasons. This was his way of his way of directing a movie without being able to direct a movie at that time. But I definitely think it was his.
There's so many shots, but I feel like that opening shot where they open up the bedroom door and everything's just swirling around. Like, from then on, it's a Spielberg film, and I love the outdoor shots of the house. Like how some of them are essentially like the same smoky shot of like the outside of the house, but I love how it gives the house that character.
Yeah,
like it's this organism. You know what I mean? Like it's got this personality. I don't know. I just loved all those little things about it.
There's one shot like from the roof, like looking off into the distance, the way that the camera's placed on the roof and lined up with the houses in the distance, it's just fucking epic. It's such a cool looking shot.
It's not just the cinematography either, because Steven Spielberg, another hallmark of his, in my opinion, is his work with the actors themselves. He tends to give a lot of charisma and character to each of his characters, no matter what movie it is. Like, they're almost always memorable in a lot of ways.
Right.
And I think that shows here as well. Like everybody, I mean, even that little old lady, I've never seen her in much of anything, but it's like she's a freaking, Academy Award winning actress all of a sudden.
It all felt ridiculous, but it felt believable at the same time.
Yeah.
What the family was going through, even like these psychics having them in the house, and like homegirl, like she felt off, but at the same time, like if it's my little girl and I could hear her through the walls or the television set, like, put a rope on me and tell me where to go, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's one of the things. That's what hit us all. I think all of us are pretty much in the same boat, where the last time we saw this, we didn't have kids, and this time we did. And like there was just those moments where I'm like, really like the movie could be very melodramatic. Like it can get a little cheesy
for sure
at times, but like you are so invested in the story and these characters that you're along for the ride. Like, and that's how it should work with these dramatic scenes. They should be a little over the top. But there's one more. There's other couple things I wanted to show you guys. I took the time I think we're all in agreement this motherfucker directed this movie, but I did want to show you these things. This is like a 20-second clip. I have two of them, but this is basically, as I was just showing this while you were talking, Fable, this is the producer. He's clearly directing actors during a scene right now. This is the producer directing actors during another scene, and they released I think it was an old, like, not a trailer, but like a 7-minute promotional bit that they did back in the early 80s before this came out. And they had like 3 minutes worth of Steven Spielberg directing on set. And then they didn't show that. They took that away and they've re-released it. And it's actually one of the very few special features that's on the new Blu-ray. There's no commentary. They don't want people like talking about the behind the scenes of this. But this is a little clip right here of Steven Spielberg. He's talking about one of the ghost effects that we see in the movie and like how he wants it to go down.
We shouldn't see his face though. We shouldn't see his face. Just the feeling of the body and the arms coming up.
Yeah.
And it's as if he's going to. This thing is growing out of her, and it's getting larger and larger, and the shoulders are almost going up to the ceiling. And just when you begin to see the fingers, it goes whoosh, breaks up like blowing a smoke ring apart in the air, and then goes shooting up into the area by location.
Dude, are you serious now?
Right. Now, here's what's kind of funny. What he's describing, I think, is the stairs bit, but it doesn't it doesn't go exactly like that in the movie, like the way it grows. But if you look at these, the way that he's like talking about it goes up like this. They use that for this ghost right here. Like he's describing what they used for this. Just quickly, I'm going to play this.
Almost more poetic, dude.
Yeah. Now, what I want you to notice in this one, what he's talking about is the end scene where we've got that like hole, right? That with the tentacle coming out of it. And he's working with the special effects crew and talking about what's going to look best against the background. But just notice the way that he's in the center and everyone's surrounding him.
Right.
It's much like better than one of the.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
Lifting out the wall.
It should be right from the heart of this beast, right out to grab him. This is great because it's almost a side angle. You'll see it real well in this last shot.
Okay. The other thing is on this arc lighting coming out through the throat.
Yeah, the strep throat light.
Yeah.
It was real dark. This sinister tendril coming out of nowhere. I think you'll see it real well against the right mouth and real well against the pink wall.
Wow.
No, like right there, just talking about like how things are going to be visually seen on screen against different backgrounds. That's not a producer's role. That's not a writer's role. That's a straight up director or maybe a cinematographer's role.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think I feel like we fucking proved it.
Yeah.
Prosecution list. Bro. that was incredible. Shout out to you.
Watch,
that was great.
Jurassic Park and watch this movie. The skeleton is almost exactly the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a Spielberg movie. Like
that's another thing. And this is something I saw in a YouTube video in Raiders of the Lost Ark. You have all these skeletons that are like falling out of coffins and then they're like slowly moving and you can't tell if they're moving due to gravity or if they're still alive. And then it's the same thing in this with all the skeletons and just so many moments. But then to top it off, I threw on Life Force earlier, which I know a lot of people are big fans of. Fable and Link, I know you guys both enjoyed it when we talked about it on DHS. I liked it a little bit less, but I watched the first half hour of it. And the first scene that you get like a group of people, just like we get in this movie, there's a group of people, they're having a conversation and it's so stilted. They're like, we'll show this person. Now we'll show this person. Now we'll show this person.
Yeah.
And in this, there's the bit where Tangina's like, Steven, you've got to yell for Carol Ann. You've got to force her away from the light.
Yeah.
They do that scene and they start with this low angle on Tangina and then they go up and move the camera up to her. Craig T. Nelson steps into stage. She walks back towards the door. There's all these moving pieces and it's like, this is fucking brilliant. And there's not a drop of that in Life Force, which has a bigger budget and was done after this movie. So it shows not only that, but sorry, Tobe Hooper, he also didn't learn anything from Steven Spielberg on this movie. Like he wasn't involved enough.
Is Tobe Hooper British?
No,
he's American.
After he did this movie, Canon Films went to him and they wanted to sign him to a 3-film deal. And that I think they're British based, and he did his films after this over there in England, which is what a lot of.
Which were what? What were those films?
He did one of them had to be a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, so there was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Life Force, which we were just talking about, and then I think Invaders from Mars, but don't quote me on that one.
Yeah.
I could be wrong there.
Yeah,
because there's definitely more or less like not the heights of fame you would expect after a production like this.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. There's definitely well, in my eyes, there's like a British aesthetic, and a lot of it is static. In my opinion, like if you watch Doctor Who or you know what I mean, certain things, there's like or Dune, you know, if you ever seen Dune, the original Dune, there's a style to their directing, and that's what I wonder, because he has a similar style, especially when you mentioned Life Force.
Right, for sure. All right, well, let's get into. We have basically the whole first act of the film. We're meeting the family. Carol Ann gets sucked into the house. Let's get into like our favorite moments from the whole like second chunk of the movie, all the practical effect moments, anything you want to talk, really anything you want to talk about. You want to talk about the family? Let's just talk a little bit more about this movie, and we'll send it around another time before we rate this thing. But what do you think, Fable?
I love the way in the beginning, like it's exciting for the mom, like she's losing her shit. She's telling everybody to come check this shit out. The chairs are rearranging themselves. Just sliding the kid across the floor in the kitchen, and like she's having a great time at first, and then the shit just turns on them. You know what I mean? It turns on them completely and takes her kid away. And I just love the
first scene. That was the first scene that started to turn for me. Like it was, that was so beautifully done. I thought too. Like that's just a zero cost special effects that just fucks you up.
How do you guys think? Me and my wife spent like 10 minutes rewinding it and going back and forth. I actually saw some pretty cool things. You can see some reflections. How do you guys think this is done? What would be your guess? Anybody have a guess at how this would go down?
So like I definitely saw that the chair on the left and the right are half off. So there's got to be some type of screwed / nailed together or wood glue going on. I feel like there's definitely it's definitely like one set piece.
Right. Basically, to the right of when the mom goes down and she gets something out of the cabinet, there's like a toaster above her, and you can see movement in the reflections. Like something is going on over there. I have to assume, like you said, it's one piece. And they just I'll bet there's not a ceiling above that. And they pull all the chairs out real quick. They take that audio away and they just drop that one piece down on top of the table, or the table is all one piece. right?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's something like low budget, but it's so well done, and it does such a great job of building the tension and terror. Like that's the start of it, and you know something's off. You don't know it's necessarily malicious or benevolent or malevolent rather yet, but you know something's off. So
right, and you know that she's the mom is being way too trusting.
Yes, absolutely.
Hell yeah!
Like it's not a kid's game, girl. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, man, I just love the family aspect of it. I love everybody's interactions, really. Like, you know what I mean? Little things that make you know, like, yeah, they're in the suburbs. You know what I mean? Like, for me, the Spielbergian part where I knew it was like Spielberg for me is when he was having the remote war with his neighbor, and he was trying, like, I'm changing the channel, and the way that was shot, like it's showing him and it's just showing him, and then you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, this is Spielberg all the way. But yeah, just little things like that. The construction workers messing with the daughter, and she's like giving him the finger. And the mother's laughing at it, like, oh, you know what I mean? Just
that's one of those like how things have changed. Like just the mother's reaction to all these older men hitting on her daughter.
Yeah, are we going to talk about the curse of the cast members, or?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, why don't you fill me in on it a little bit?
So I know Dominique Dunn, since we're talking about homegirl who got hollered at by the construction workers, got strangled to death. Not less than a year after this movie's release in the driveway by a crazy ex-boyfriend. And of course, we all know the story with homegirl dying tragically. Yeah, but man, I don't know, eerie vibes, and I feel like it's one thing when you mess with like slasher, you're making a slasher fic or whatever. It's another thing when you're going with against the energy. You know what I mean? And I know that sounds like broad reaching and whatever, but I feel like when you tap into certain dark elements, you need to tread lightly. And I feel like this is definitely one of those examples. Like I don't know where to point where like everything went bad, but the fact that like multiple cast members have died and weird
young ages too. Well, Carol Ann, I think she died. She died, I think, of Crohn's disease at the age of 13. I know it was some disease.
It was misdiagnosed Crohn's disease or something.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, something. But and she was on set or just had been on set before.
Yeah, from what I heard, she went into that water scene. There was like a water scene, and that got her very sick, and she like died.
Yeah.
The old man from part 2, he died before shooting was up. Like he died during the making of the movie, and he looked like he was dying during the making of the movie.
He did. Yeah, that was one
of
those.
Didn't they use real skeletons in the scene where the mom falls in? Like that. That's not really good energy right there.
Not the best idea.
I would agree. To me, that is great. And they didn't tell her until afterwards. Word on the street is it was just cheaper to get these real skeletons. Seems extremely illegal, and I have to believe that it is illegal at this point. But no, dude, what I wonder, like, is this their teeth?
Oh, wow.
Like, were they made up at all?
I don't know. That looks way too real, way too uncomfortable for me. Like, come on, man. That's for like deceased persons within like what, a year and a half? Like they're not that far gone. I don't know. That's crazy.
Shit. While we're dishing out fun facts, I've got a handful. The clown right here, it malfunctioned and it choked the kid on set. They really did look down and see that he was being choked. And then where's the damn door go? So all 3 of these are ones that I've made shorts of. But in this one right here, the noise that you hear is the MGM lion that you hear at the beginning of this movie. And it's also, it's the first time in the MGM lion logo that they used a tiger's roar rather than an actual lion's roar. So now I've got out of the way all the fun facts I know about this movie.
The puppet scene to me personally was that was the scariest scene to me as a child. The clown puppet. I thought that was like horrific. That one. And even though it looks it looks very fake now, still looks disgusting though. The one where he rips his face up in the sink.
Yeah, bro.
How
does that get PG? That got a PG rating?
Yeah.
I think that's the pull of Steven Spielberg getting them that rating. By the way, this is Steven Spielberg's hands that are
right. Yeah, that's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah,
right. That's a director's cameo if there ever was one.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I don't even think it's not the most well executed shot because it does look really
Yeah,
weird.
it doesn't look that
It
great.
doesn't look like somebody's hands attached to that body.
But it's still super disgusting though, like the pieces falling in the sink and all the glob.
Fuck it. If they let us keep the sand, we're rolling with it anyway. Like, it's just...
Oh, here's another thing I wanted to point out while we're talking about disgusting bits. The scene with the steak where the one Ghostbuster guy goes in and the steak is acting all fucking weird. The special effects guy that made that steak, he made it, he got the whole gag set up, and then he sent it to Tobe Hooper, he A-okayed it, and then Steven Spielberg saw it and said, no, you got to do it again. Go do this, change this about it. So then after that, any effect that he did, he ran it by Spielberg and Hooper before he went in to do that, and just run that across the board with everybody on your staff. And that's how a movie not directed by Steven Spielberg becomes a Steven Spielberg movie. Like, everyone's going to him first. But Link, I don't know where we left off. I was just gonna do any favorite moments from the movie. Did I go to you?
I don't. I would say I like the it was small, it was a subtle thing, but the intensity of like the strobe lights they use for the flickering TV. It was intense, you know. I found myself saying like, God damn, tone it down. Like, I get what you're trying to do, but I like that at the same time. But it was very intense.
You could tell that it was strobe lights. That's kind of the way I felt about it. So you really felt like there was a bunch of strobe lights in the room.
God forbid you suffer from epilepsy. Don't watch this movie at all.
No, yeah, but it did look cool. Even like some of the behind the scenes footage that I've seen, not necessarily of the TV, but of the scene where they've got the rope and they're trying to get Carol Ann out of wherever the fuck she is. Yeah. It's an insane contraption. All the lights surrounding them and all the wires and everything to pull off that scene was crazy. But I do agree. It is a little bit like, oh, this is maybe too much right now. And it might not have felt as extreme back on shittier TVs back in the day than it does on a 4K TV now.
But it's very effective because when you see Carol Ann's face and it's strobing on her face and she's like, 5? Yeah.
I don't know. When she says I don't know, it's so creepy.
And it's just strobing on her face like that. It's super effective. But yeah, you're right. It's probably the HD-ness of everything that's like, whoa. Right. I'm about to have a seizure here, and I don't even have epilepsy.
I know. My wife is always worried, like, don't let the baby cover her eyes. We don't know if she's got epilepsy. It's like, oh fuck, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
But did you have anything more, Link?
Oh no, I just wanted that scene. I like. There's so many, but I just highlight a little smaller scene. You know.
Oh hell yeah, man! What about you, Stu?
Dude, I just love that scene. Like, I just love how they set you up for like the false bottom with like the homegirl who comes in and cleanses the house, and then like they get ambushed after homeboy is out with the developer or whatever. I just love like that whole that second/third act to the movie, man. That was like one of my favorite parts, and you knew it was coming. You just didn't know how it was coming.
Right. What's one thing I like about it is it's kind of like the killer getting up after you've killed him.
Yeah, right.
But it's the best version of that, like ever. We're giving you 15 minutes of madness.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I love the intro to this movie so much. I love how it opens with the United States anthem. Dun, dun, dun,
yes.
dun, dun, and then you get the
that's the precursor like twice. Yeah, that's like the intro song twice to the demon showing up or
right.
Yeah. You get that sound. I can't describe that. that
you did it pretty goddamn well.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, and it's like, ooh, shit just got creepy.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any issues? Because I noticed, I think it stood out to me as a negative a little bit more on the second time that I watched it this week. There's a lot of whispering going on in this movie for a long time. I kind of look at it like William Friedkin. It's something he always says about The Exorcist. He wanted to follow a really quiet scene with a really loud scene and vice versa to really like make both more impactful. And I feel like Steven Spielberg was kind of taking a little bit from the Friedkin school, but I don't think it was necessarily the whispering that got to me, but it was the length of the scenes and the speeches. Tangina's got one that goes on for a long ass time, and then the other female Ghostbuster that shows up in the first place, her and the mom are talking. It's interesting and it's cool, but I think both times that I watched it, it lost me for like a second. I found myself instinctively just grabbing my phone, seeing what the fuck these people are saying. You know what I mean? Does that stand out to any of you guys?
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, the Tangina had me hooked because I just like that little old lady and everything she was saying. She was like, "Now listen, somebody's got your daughter," and I'm like, oh my God, help me, Tangina.
Threaten to spank her. Like, I've never spanked this kid before. Threaten to spank that child. Like,
but I would agree that the other lady and the mom, when they had their conversation, it was a little long. But the little kid saved it, I think, because he kind of spoke up after a little while, like, so yeah, no, I agree. It did catch me.
Yeah, for sure, dude. This is just a random ass thing that I'm thinking that I wanted to throw in there because I'm noticing like, oh, there's a third daughter. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, oh, I forgot about her. She must have some role in the movie that I'm going to remember as it comes up. And then I realized, like, oh no. At one point, they're just like, yeah, she spends a lot of time with her friends, and that's why she's not here. And then she shows up afterwards at the end. First of all, I noticed this time she's got a hickey on her neck, like a big fucking hickey on her neck. And she's like, what happened? The house is fucking falling apart. But it got me thinking. I had heard Steven Spielberg, he has 3 sisters. And in a lot of his older movies, he used to put in a bunch of sisters. And I'm like, oh, this dude just wanted to give Robbie 2 sisters. And it's like, yeah, let's not write her a role. Let's just have her spend time at her friend's house. But that's pretty much why she exists. If anyone was curious, what's up with the sister? That's my guessing as to what's going on. And she's got a hickey.
Yeah, that sounds dead on. Because, yeah, the final climax, like, act of the movie, she goes to her friend's house and gets a hickey and then shows back up. when literally everything is falling into the portal to hell. And she's just screaming, and they like throw her in the car and ride off. So that sounds accurate.
I didn't prep you guys for this, but I think this does have some fairly easy themes that we could pick out of it. And so I want to send it around and let's have a little fun with this because that's one thing about it. I would have never thought about like any of the themes going on in this movie as a child. So now to watch it on this level and to appreciate knowing the era more of horror. I was talking to you guys, Fable and Stu, after the show last week. This is like, I keep having these experiences where I'm like deep diving into horror and really learning about an era. And then I'll watch like Halloween after learning about the era before it and just be blown away all over again by it. And that's really how I feel about Poltergeist now. Like I have so much more perspective to be like, okay, 1982, a horror movie. It's like, holy shit, this is just way better than almost every one of them that came out that year. I'm going to look at the list in a second, but I'll bet it's fucking up there. But anyway, I guess that's where I was going with it. The themes of it, I would have never thought about how deep this movie was and how many themes it touches on. So what's the movie saying to you, Fable?
I mean, I think Stu touched on it a little earlier with like the industrialization of America and you know, the commercialization, all that kind of stuff, because you know, they're building these houses and they're just like tearing down whatever was there before, and what was there before was pretty significant. I mean, these are, you know, dead people, and you know what I mean, and all the history with that. But also it hit home when he was trying to sell the house to that couple, and the husband said, I don't know if I could tell one house different from the other house or whatever. He's like, oh, that's interesting you're saying that, because one guy built a pool. You know what I mean? It was almost like saying how what do you call it? Assembly line, like assembly line, how factory. Yeah, how it all is. You know what I mean? And you know how that comes to bite you in the ass. Like you know what I mean? You're getting rid of individuality and stuff like that, you know, and putting everything as like a factory thing, you know.
Right. We grew up in the world. We grew up in the world that all those 80s movies were warning us it's gonna be. You know what I mean? Like this fucking shirt that I'm wearing right now. You know how many fat dudes my age are walking around wearing this shirt because I got it at Walmart? Like it takes away your individualness when all we're buying is from corporations.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you have to add to that, Link?
I guess what Stu was saying, that really is poignant. That the sacrifice for the American dream, how quick people cash in for what they think they should have and what's built upon that, how the knocking out is like when destroying burial sites be like considered sacrilegious or something.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's quick, like you said, it's like manufactured, but yeah, I think there's something there with that.
This just made me think. This is something I wanted to ask you guys and ask the chat. There was 2 lines, and I'm like, dude, is this that's one thing. Like, you built it on top of an Indian burial ground. Is this the first movie that did that? Because it's
right?
such a big thing. Like,
myself.
is this the one? Like, I even think in The Shining there might have been something to that in the
yeah.
Kubrick version. I'm not sure about that. The other thing was, don't go towards the light. Is that from this fucking movie, or is that just from humanity? You know what I mean? Like, that seems like an ancient thing, but it might be from this movie.
Right. You might have a Mandela effect going on where, we think it's something that's always been around, but it's like, no, before 1982, nobody said the light or
right.
The light.
It's just,
I don't know, though. I don't know.
The greatest reference was from like when I was watching this, and I realized, oh, this is where Scary Movie got homegirl getting banged on top of the ceiling by the ghost from, like with the crawling up the sides. That was just like, I don't know. That was a moment of carefree joy for me.
Well, that's another thing that impressed me. They had the 2 different scenes in this movie where they built a rotating set. Yeah, and I've always kind of credited Wes Craven and A Nightmare on Elm Street with like, oh, that's such an innovative, crazy kill when they do that with Tina in that movie. But shit, Spielberg or Hooper, somebody did it 2 years before.
Absolutely, yeah, very good point. But yeah, I think it's about, I don't know, all of those things that we talked about. It's just about chasing the American dream, the illusion that it is. I think it's still relevant. All these, it's 82 was the year I was born, and it's still got so much relevance as far as like the relationship between moms and dads and kids, like moms and dads in society, like how we're all trying to make a way for our families. There's so many themes outside of the haunting or the ghost part of this that are still so very true and visceral, which I think lends it to its immortality and its place in the canon of horror movies. So yeah, I think that'll forever keep the flame lit. I don't see that dying anytime soon, until we turn into a completely a different race of people and put our eyes on the prize in terms of different things. But as long as we're out here chasing the 9 to 5 and we're all doing the rat race, man, there's going to be parts of this movie that just sing out to us, regardless of the ghouls and goblins, clowns, and and jesters and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Great pick for Fable. Like I said, I know it wasn't much trying to chase Maximum Overdrive, but dude, this was such a great movie to digest in like 3 different days. I know that's probably not how y'all watched it, but like this movie is so heavy on so many different levels, and I feel like as much as Toby was there, like this is such a Spielberg movies make you think and ring off in your head like that, and in so many ways I feel like this is an indelible Spielberg film, and I feel like if you want to give credit, let's split it 50-50, but at the same time, like, dude, there's so many shots / themes / moments where it just feels like a Spielberg thing here.
Right. I mean, even without him directing it, it's a Spielberg story. Like it just
absolutely
it feels like that. I guess I'll add to the theme is just they're saying something about TV. Obviously, there's something about the TV is gonna suck your kids in and do something, trash your family unit. They throw the TV out at the end. But it's funny because you get that a lot from these filmmakers that'll like Videodrome is a comment on that from another filmmaker. But that's still relevant today. You could swap it out now and you could have Carol Ann be stuck in an iPhone. So it would resonate with kids.
I just love how it attached to your both your adult sense of fear and your childhood sense of fear. Like the tree was scary as fuck, but there was also like adult elements that were scary. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like there was So, and even though it was PG, there was elements that were scary for everybody.
To me, that's what tells you it's a Spielberg joint. Just like Verno said earlier, what Spielberg is great at is giving you a childlike sense of wonder for everything that you're watching. You know what I mean? It puts you in that frame where you're like Jurassic Park, Jaws, this, the Close Encounters, even Schindler's List or Saving Private Ryan. You know what I mean? There's a lot of awe, and it's like, like a childlike sense to
what's interesting is we were kind of saying some similar things about King last week, and originally that's who he wanted to write this with. He wanted to work on the screenplay with Stephen King, but he wasn't available. It's like, I mean, actually, after watching Maximum Overdrive, I'm like, maybe he would have fucked it up. But it's interesting to think what could have.
Probably so,
dude. If Spielberg would have went the way of a Carpenter or Wes Craven or something, I mean, he would have been one of the greatest horror directors, in my opinion.
Oh God,
like he would have been a juggernaut in that genre. But he decided to go the way he did, and we got some great stuff from it. But a lot of it has horror elements. I always say that Jurassic Park, it's a horror movie, man.
For a lot of dude. Sure. Like, dude, watching that glass of water and the stomp from the T-Rex, like that's a horror movie moment right there.
Well, if I think of Spielberg, like Spielberg is like, he's like Walt Disney. It's like a similar flavor. George Lucas, another similar flavor. There's horror elements in every Disney movie, cartoon, animated. Some of it is downright terrifying. You know what I mean? So like they know it's kids like scary stuff. And that's part of it. Human beings like scary stuff. It hooks you in. Let's grade this thing, and then we'll get to the official announcement of Zombie Fest 2024. Fable, I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty high grade from you. Let's kick it off, brother.
I'm gonna give this A-. Right? We're doing letters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the letters, baby.
Yeah, you're on the letters.
Bring them back.
I'm gonna give it an A-. For some of the bits that we talked about, you know what I mean? There's some cheesiness to it, right? There's a little bit of cringe, a little bit sometimes. Like, she went through my soul. I was like,
oh, I like that. That almost made me cry last night, dude, when I watched it. That really did hit me. But that's like with the melodrama, if you're invested, it hits you right where you want it to. But if you're not 100%, then you're like,
dude, and as a parent, that was so real. Like, she could smell her, but like everybody else was like, yeah, I can smell her, bitch. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't want to tell her no. Yeah. But at the same time, a mom knows.
Right. And also, I think she's a bit of a hippie, like,
for sure.
When she jumped up and down when the kid slid across, she was like, bugging out. And the father's almost like having a stroke, and she's having a great time.
The way she jumped there too, there's no way she wasn't a cheerleader in high school.
Yeah,
she jumped up, she did that with her arms, kicked her legs. It's like, yep.
Yeah. Plus, they were smoking. They were smoking the J for the nightcap.
I love it.
Like,
he's reading a book about. He's reading about Reagan, she's reading about Carl Jung, and they're both twisted doobies. It's like saying a lot right
I love how he tells her, he's like, yo, handle that for me. Like, she's
but
she's 30.
No, go ahead.
That, brother?
Oh no, I was just shocked that she was 31. Like I'm like, how old was he? Or
Dude,
people look so much
35.
older back then.
I'm 5 years older than him, dude. That was bugging me out. I had to look it up.
He was trying to twist up, and he was like, yo, girl, I don't know what I'm doing. Just please do something.
But besides those little parts that don't age so well, this is a shining example of the cutting edge of 1982, right? Like, this is filmmaking on the cutting edge. This is Industrial Light and Magic coming out, showing everybody what they can do besides spaceships and shit like that. We can do other things, and a lot of sleekness to this that I think defines an era, right? Oh. Like the 80s. This is like this is what the 80s is going to be about, brother. You know what I mean? We're out of the 70s, brother. This is the 80s. Yeah. Now we get Gremlins. Yeah. Now we get Goonies. Now we get this and that. You know what I mean? And
hell yeah,
comes after this. So I think this is coming out party for the 80s, coming out party for Steven Spielberg. and Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas, and all the magic they brought to Hollywood in that decade.
Hell yeah, brother. Very well said. What about you, Link? What's your grade? And you guys down in the chat, anybody that's seen the film?
I'm gonna give this one a strong B. I've never been one for ghost movies. Still not. They don't really get to me. I don't know. I've never been. But it's well made. For being a ghost movie, it's got great production, and I think it was a staple, like Fable said, or just going forth for like 80s horror movies as a whole. And it still holds up quite well for being 40 plus years old. So I'll give it a solid B.
Hell yeah, brother. Mr. Stu, he who slays. Where you at?
It's an A for me, bro. It's an A for me. I love this one. I think it has, themes that will still ring out domestically for years to come. I think it has a lot of great. I think it's a great study in Spielberg. Whether you want to admit he was there or not. And just as somebody who's like, enjoyed it as both a kid and as a parent, I think it's got, multiple access points to things you can experience and take from it. So
it's maybe the best all-time entry level horror movie.
Absolutely, dude. And like, I know we're at a different, obviously with the context of the movie, some of the things that happen in it, the rating, whatever, we're in a different place in time where it wouldn't be PG today. But regardless, from a kid on up to an adult, like where it's affected me as a parent, fucking A for me. So yeah, I think a really solid cinematic experience, no matter where you sit on the dial.
Hell yeah, brother. Just to go back to what I was saying earlier about 1982, The Thing came out in 1982, so I'm gonna have to put this one in second place behind The Thing. But other than that, Creep Show, Friday the 13th Part 3, Dario Argento's Tenebrae.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the second
82 is a big year, man. 82, I think, like I said, it defines what the look of the 80s was going to be going forward. Like,
right.
I think a lot of movies from the 1980 like if you watch Friday the 13th, right? Isn't that 1980 exactly?
Yeah.
But that movie looks like it was made in 1975.
Right. It's
right.
I mean, that's budget and skill. But that was the big thing why I was interested to watch Life Force. And I hope I'm not wrong about this. The fact that it had a bigger budget than this, because I was thinking, you could say a lot of things. Maybe this is Tobe Hooper just getting handed a great set of cards. Like, you've got all the actors, you've got the money, you've got the budget, you've got the industrial light magic behind you, and that's why he could create this masterpiece. But he had a lot of that stuff for Life Force and couldn't do it.
Right.
But if I was to grade The Thing, I'm right there with Stu, dude. I gotta go with an A. At first I was like A+ on my first watch, but after watching it again and realizing it, basically that's my biggest gripe, is the fact that it loses me 2 times in the movie when it's giving these long speeches. And that's just, if it was one time, I'd be like, whatever. But that's the only ding on it I have. What they were able to pull off visually and with the characters and with the performances and with all of the long one shots. That's my favorite thing about it. A lot of times I don't even notice them until maybe it's like halfway over. It's over. Like, oh, damn, that was one take. Or you'll notice it on a second watch through. But super impressive to look at visually. So, so hell yeah, I'm gonna give it an A. Two Gun gives this thing an A. Pew to the pew, my bro. Chill Out Man with a B+. Sale with an A-. Hell yeah. What up? And yeah, Eric says he hates that clown too. As do I, my brother. As do I. Next week, dude, I'm really excited to do this one. Has anybody on the panel ever seen the film Coherence?
No, sir. Tell me about this one.
I don't want to tell you about this one.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Go into it blind. I'll say this. I told Steph that it was The Invitation meets Triangle. So I lost Fable and I got him right fucking back. I got him right back. So
I see glow sticks, so I'm thinking a rave or something, or a party scene.
It'll throw you off a lot.
Okay.
The thumbnail is not indicative of the look of this film at all. But you're gonna go into, all I'll say is this: just give it a chance. It might within the first 5-10 minutes. This is what I'll say. It's directed like one of those fly on the wall style, kind of like Descent, where it's like just a lot of like naturalistic talking back and forth. But it's a cool movie. I think it's one that not enough people have seen, and the few people that have commented like, "Oh shit, you're doing coherence." Hell yeah, like people that have seen this movie or like this movie pretty much.
Oh yeah.
When did this come out?
2014.
Okay.
It's on Amazon Prime. I think it's on Tubi for free. It's out there for free. You can get it. But Zombie Fest, baby, coming up in January. The first movie, as I said, we're doing Night of the Living Dead. I know Robbie will be here for that one. I think he's going to be here for this one that's been a long time in the making, doing Lucio Fulci's Zombie. This is one of the at the time it was known as like one of the goriest movies of all time. Really brought gore into the horror subgenre. So I've really
done this one before.
What's up?
Y'all have never done this one before?
Robbie's done this one.
Right, yeah. Robbie, actually, funny enough, dude, me and Jelani did this when I was doing the Cerebros. We were just like, hey, you want to do something? Pick any movie you want. He picked Zombie, and me and him talked about it. And that was my introduction to the movie. So I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be a fun one, but not as much as I'm looking forward to 28 Days Later, dude. I've only seen this one. This was Steph's pick. This is pretty much the reason why I'm doing Zombie Fest. This was Steph's pick, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to put a whole month surrounding this one.
It's been a while since I saw this one, too.
Same, dude.
But this is like I think it's a game changer one.
It is.
There wasn't a lot of zombie action in the 90s. When I was growing up, there wasn't a zombie movie that I gave a fuck about.
Because the one advantage you had over them is gone in this one, and that's what makes it crazy scarier, right? Because like you think of The Walking Dead, I always think when I see zombies, I'm like, come on, we can fuck these guys up. Like we can take back society.
Exactly.
But not in this world.
Yeah, it was crazy that we had like a comic as strong as The Walking Dead / like I don't remember the timelines, but this is my first real like remembrance entry into the zombie genre. Like
I missed it. I missed it at the you're muted, Link.
This actually came out the same year as Walking Dead. I think it came out in the UK, but it definitely came out the States in 2003. Like this is one of the horror movies. I don't know. This is that impactful because I was never that big into horror, and I remember wanting to see this at like 14 years old, and I theaters. So yeah, this
is what, dude. It's sold out. You can't get the Blu-ray for it, but I just happened to check like a couple weeks ago, like it was there. So I ordered it and said it'll be here in like 30 days from then.
Nice.
It's like, so I'm like, I wonder if it's because I looked back the next day and it's gone. It's sold out. So I'm like, I hope this thing comes and it is what it says it's going to be. So I hope I can own the thing.
Help jog my memory. Do he and Rick share the same type origin story where they both wake up in a hospital?
That's where Kirkman got it. It was a homage to this movie.
Okay. Oh shit.
Wild, dude.
All right. Wow, dude. I got to get into my history then. Damn. Hell yeah.
And then this is one I'm assuming none of you have seen. My original plan was like, all right, I'm going to do Train to Busan at the end. It's probably the last like great zombie movie that we've had. It's this big epic thing.
Yeah.
And then I watched The Sadness, and I'm like, I think we got to do The Sadness, dude. We're going to end with a fucking bang. I'll just say that. It's not as good as Train to Busan. It's not quite as well put together as a film, but it's like, holy shit. It's going to make you say, holy shit already. Yeah. There was one thumbnail that I'm like, I don't even know if YouTube will let me put that up. I'm not going to put that one. This is what I went with. So, yeah, hell yeah, man. I'll go through it one more time real quick. We're going to set it off with Night of the Living Dead. Plan to have a full review of that and then a little bit of a discussion at the end on the whole Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, the whole trilogy right there to cover all the early George Romero stuff. Zombie, 28 Days Later, and The Sadness, which is on Shudder right now if anybody wants to check it out. And next week, next week, baby.
Yeah, look at all those sexy motherfuckers.
There's a lot of sex appeal going on here. What do we got going on next Wednesday, Fable?
Next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Come join us for the Blame Fable Christmas special, man. I plan to have everybody in the bass there. If hopefully everybody could come out. Never had so many people on the screen at one time. I think the last time we did something like that was Big Herb. and that might have been like 2 years ago. So, I think it's gonna be fun to have us all on there, and
I'm
just hang out. Hang out.
I gotta point this out.
Crazy Christmas dinner, dude.
A graphic novel called Crossed by Garth Ennis. I didn't know that. I went to look into this. That's cool.
Oh shit, for real?
Yo,
Mr. Anthropic on Instagram is always trying to put me on Crossed. So shout out to him.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to Warren if you're in the chat. Now or later, brother.
And then the night before, on Tuesday night, it's going to be another little festive Bad Batch event going on Supreme Clientele. Tell the people what you got going on, Stu.
Yeah, man. So unfortunately, you had to miss this week. My little man was sick, but we're bouncing back next week, Tuesday night, 9:00. We're just going to be talking about our favorite books of the year, man. No best of pressure, just books we read, we enjoyed that came out this past year. Members of the PCB Bad Batch will joining us. If any of y'all in the chat want to get down with us, holler at me through through on here or IG or whatever, and I'd love to have you guys on. I want to have as many people on to share in the community and talk about the books we love this past year. So 2023 year in review, Supreme Clientele, next Tuesday night at 9.
Hell, mother trucking, yeah. All right, well, I appreciate all you guys down in the chat. As per always, you guys on the panel, appreciate you gentlemen very much as well, and we will see you next time.
Station, y'all.